Honda has been a solid engineering company and really a successful automaker for decades, for a very long time. But I think most people would argue or agree that they haven't made as much progress or as fast a progress in the electric vehicle area as maybe they should have. They were always a smaller company, much smaller than, for instance, Toyota, and the resources to go aggressively into electric vehicle technology just wasn't there. Conversely, Nissan is one of the longest standing electric vehicle companies. A lot of people felt like they were ahead of everyone when they had the Nissan Leaf about 15 years ago. They've kind of dropped the ball. A lot of people would say they should be further along given where they were 15 years ago, but they certainly have a long history of producing EVs. And I think both companies are looking to, of course, cut costs, amortize costs over a wider range of products and a wider, bigger audience, a bigger buyer base. And the expenses that all the Western automakers and the Asian automakers are facing, except for China, they've got such a cost advantage. Everyone else has to look for every advantage. And I think that's where a merger like this makes sense.
Yeah, and I guess bigger picture then, if indeed we do get some sort of deepening of ties or merger here, is it going to really move the needle for these companies trying to gain market share from Tesla, from BYD and others?
Well, that's always the big question, right, Lynn? I mean, it's not uncommon for these companies to merge and assume they're going to be big benefits. But, we saw over 20 years ago, Daimler Chrysler, that didn't really work out. But then, the Fiat Chrysler thing under Marchionni really did well. And now a lot of people aren't too convinced about Stellantis and merging with Fiat Chrysler. So there is no guarantee by any means. You really need to combine a merger with a very capable leader and a very capable executive team that can not just take the potential of these kind of joint ventures, but actually leverage them in an effective way, an economic and R&D and investment way to really advance both companies at the same time. And we've seen both examples of that working and not working. So I'd like to think the best, but it's just a merger until it's actually a successful merger, and that's going to take years to prove.
Karl, do you have a line on, how you react to the stock moves that we've got? Some of the regional peers like Hyundai Motor and Kia, they're on fire. Isn't this supposed to be a threat to the Toyotas and Hyundais of the world? What would be the implication for the European players, especially Renault?
It's a potential threat if these two companies could align effectively and come up with a really good economic plan that leverages all their resources and maximizes profit. I think one of the reasons you see such a jump for Nissan, but not necessarily a jump, if not a slight pull down for Honda, is that Honda, maybe they aren't as far along as they should be in EVs, but they're still a very successful company in terms of their finances. And they're going to face increasing competition, but they're currently doing quite well. Nissan's got bigger problems. They've got debt coming, bonds coming that are going to be due, and a lot of people are looking at them and looking at the numbers and wondering if they're going to be around in the current state another year plus. So they're in much more of a need of a dance partner, so to speak, than Honda is, at least short term. Long term, Honda's is challenged by being a small company, and they're going to face plenty of challenges themselves over the next 5 years.
Yeah, so when we think about Nissan, as you were saying, perhaps this fight for survival here. So I'm wondering, because of that debt situation as well in about 12 months' time, how do you think any kind of a deepening of a tie-up would really look like? There's been reports that there could be the creation of some sort of a holding company where the other two companies could sit under as subsidiaries, or there could be a closer ties in terms of a capital tie-up. What do you think makes sense?
Well, I think for Honda, what would make sense is some way to get all the upside and no potential downside from this. And if they could structure it so that they're never going to be liable for those bonds if things don't go well with this merger, then there's no risk for them going into this. It's pure upside if they can actually leverage whatever Nissan's electric vehicle and R&D capabilities are with their really great engineering and a lot of their chassis and platform, and of course the audience that both of them has, the buyer base that they both have.